Dave, my name's Rob Brown. I'm a surf photographer with Surfing Magazine. You know me. We've been friends for years. I haven't seen you in 2-3 years. Got my sack cut last Monday, a week ago. So this wood chair's not too bad now, but it used to hurt a lot.
So how many kids did you put out before it cut?
I think we have 50, right, honey? Yeah, 50.
50 children?
Yeah. Most of them Americans. All on welfare. Welfare?
Little goofy footers?
Yeah.
How long have you been at it?
Name's Robert Brown, surf photographer with Surfing Magazine, 19 years.
First time you heard of the K2, the concept, the idea, what did you think, what came to mind?
First time was an ad in Surfing Magazine. I sent in a fax to the address or the phone number it said to send it to. I did this whole explanation of who I was, and then later on I find out it's Bill Sharp, which we're pretty good friends. So why would I have done it that way? It was like an embarrassment because I was trying to justify why I should be allowed to try to be in the event, and I thought, wait a minute here, this is Bill. Once I found out, I called him up and he explained the whole situation, so that was a lot of fun.
What did you think of the idea? Pretty amazing marketing?
I told him he had the marketing idea of the century, and then to have it come off this year, it was a crapshoot at the beginning of the year. Who would have known with all the El Nino hype that it really would have came through? I thought the news was blowing it, overhyping it, and then it turns out we have houses falling off mudslides and giant waves all winter, and I couldn't believe it. They actually nailed it. I suggest they don't try it again because next year will be flat. Well, Waimea, I've been there forever. Since I was about 17 years old, I started shooting there just in the winter, in December, January. And, you get it pretty fickle when you don't live there. Guys who live there get it every time. I would get lucky if it was that big, but it seemed like some years it wouldn't stop breaking. One year I got lucky enough to shoot Mark Fu out of a helicopter at the Billabong, and that was one of the all-time events. That was the all-time event for Hawaii as far as I'm concerned. To see him surf those giant waves and be that close to it. And I got a great poster he signed, and that's one of the few surf pictures I have in my house. I was so thrilled when I found it again after he passed on. Then the only time I've been to Mavericks, I went with Mike Parsons, and that was, in fact, the day Mark died. So that made that poster all the more important to me. Then Todos, Larry Moore, one time took me out my 15-foot Hobie skiff that I had, and next thing you know, I evolved into an 18-foot boat. Now I have a 21-foot boat. And just to get to go there and be within 20, 30 feet of the biggest waves on Earth is one of the thrills of my life. If it's good, I can come home. We get up at 1 in the morning to go down there, and I can come home and still be shaking that night from what I saw. But if it's bad, you're by the border, you're in a coma begging for coffee. So it's either great or it's horrible. And when it's great, you're not even tired when you get home. You just tell my wife, and anybody will talk to me on the phone all about it. It's just amazing to be with these guys who surf these waves. You really don't know till almost the last minute. Just like Taylor did in speech tonight. It's almost midnight the night before, you're getting a call going, okay, it's on, we're sure it's on, the buoys are booming now. My wife, she'll tell you, I plop the weather radio down and I'll listen to the buoys, but I don't even have the knowledge myself to know when it's coming. It's really Larry Moore and it's Sean Collins. I really got to thank those guys, because I could sit at home and miss a 30-foot swell so easily without their help. Sean is the master on this earth. There's no one who can predict this stuff better. Larry is wonderful also. Sean does it for a living. Larry's a photo editor, so Sean is probably on more than Larry, but they're both unbelievable. And to have that access to be able to call Sean direct to his surf line and speak to him, not just listen, wait for his forecast, because sometimes we're flying guys over from Hawaii, we're flying them over, Peter Mell came down with us, guys are coming down from Mavericks, and you can't do it overnight. There's no red eyes from Hawaii that will make it in time, so it's so last minute. You just have to push it and hope for the best, but those guys are really making it so it's easy. So we'll get up. If we're not going to spend the night down there, we'll get up 1:30, 2 in the morning. I don't get a lot of sleep. I'll try to go to bed at 10 o'clock, but I'm so excited about it that I don't really sleep. It's an all-day marathon. You get up at 1:30, you leave by 2:30, 3 in the morning, somewhere right around there. And everybody really shows up on time because I know I'll leave them. I'm brutal that way. I want to be there when the light cracks. And we drive to Ensenada, which is about 160 miles. Put the boat in at the Corral Hotel now. Go out. It's 8 miles out. Takes about 25 minutes in my boat. I have a nice fast boat. We get out there. This year you couldn't go between the islands because it was so big that it was actually breaking in between the islands this year for the first time. I saw it one other time in my life with Mark Fu and Brock Little, and other than that I've never seen it. So this year I had a couple of close calls in between the islands, and so it actually had to go down and around the inside of the islands because the islands were breaking both ways. It was huge. I mean, it's a death trap. It was incredible.
And you're at the helm of the boat?
Yeah, I drive it, but it's real slow. It's just like Mavericks. The guys that are the guys there aren't driving their own boats, but really they could shoot and drive. It's all slow motion. It's knowing where you're at. It's not a matter of running around 100 miles an hour. It's knowing the brake. So you're really in best conditions. You're not ever in a dangerous position. You're putting it in gear and putting along. Generally, I'm pointing outwards. I don't want to be pointing inwards. I don't want to catch one of these things, which I have, and had to steer out of it. It's all almost 5-10 miles an hour stuff, but you got to know the brake, and that comes from being there forever. But this year, the waves were actually breaking in another spot that we had never seen. Beyond the boil, further out, I've seen it 2 times before this in 10 years. And this year we saw it probably 6 days. So it was pretty crazy. It's different. It's about 25 feet where the waves break, and it's about 35 to 40 about where I'm at. So it's just enough. You actually drive up the face of the wave. There's a huge hump, but it really is a perfect point break there. You really couldn't ask for a better situation with sunlight and everything. You know, for us, lighting's a lot of the big deal. You got to have it just right, and it's a dream come true. The place is magic when it's on, and it's a nightmare when it's off, because you come back, not only are you in a foreign country, you get to sit in the borderline forever. You're towing a boat. You're always wondering whether you're going to, you just don't know whether you're going to get set up by the federales. It's a whole other element. I had an early photo of Terrence McNulty that I entered that at the time I thought was bigger than Peter's wave from Mavericks, but it wasn't as dramatic. There was a lot of whitewater. It was huge, and it wasn't exploding. It was just giant mass of whitewater. I withdrew that one when I got a shot of Dan Malloy 2 days after Taylor Knox's wave. I have Taylor's wave from the side, but I didn't have the biggest. I knew it wasn't the biggest shot, so I didn't even enter it. I entered one of Dan Malloy that I imagine got 2nd or 3rd place, which is really neat. I guess they didn't judge it that way. They just gave 1st place, and they gave Peter a big award, which he deserved. Dan got 1 wave, no video, no anything, but I had the whole sequence where he paddled into it, and it is, the guy's an unbelievable surfer. It's probably a 45 to 50 foot face of the wave, which they told me from the judging. So I was 2 to 5 feet off of Taylor's wave, but he was charging, and it wasn't as dramatic as Taylor's wave. Taylor deserves to win, hands down. I got to witness that, and that was something. You know what's funny? The first time I really got hyped on the K2 to get involved was when I read an LA Times article that was pro-Mavericks all the way through. Everything was Mavericks. It's going to come out of Mavericks, and I don't know who wrote it, but I thought, you know something, they must not know about Todos Santos, because to talk like that, you must not realize how big of a wave it is there. Jay Moriarty went there this year, and he got punished, and he had a lot of respect for the place. Any true big wave rider who's been there in Mavericks is going to come out saying, you know what, we could die at either place. This is unbelievable. And they don't look at it any other way. It's not a macho thing saying this place is more radical than that place, because they're very different. They're both deep water waves. Mavericks is radical. I imagine it's more radical, but when you get to that stage, what's the difference? It's huge. As far as K2 continuing on with another event, I don't see why they should do it. They killed it this year. Bill and Bonnie nailed it. Hats off to Taylor. He's unbelievable. I took him out that day, so I have a vested interest. He's taking me and the wife to the Chart House for dinner, so I still win. You know, it's great. And Dan Malloy, and I feel bad for Mike Parsons because he's put in more time than most of these guys, and it just didn't work out. I think thank God these guys are being more cautious, because with Todd Chesser and Dan and Donnie all dying, you know, I didn't know Donnie, but I know the other two really well. They're actually mine and my wife's good friends. And to have them die how they did is brutal. And the weird thing is that I can't believe it doesn't happen every week. But that's how good these guys are, and I think they've gotten smarter. So as far as K2 causing any fatalities or anything, obviously it didn't. And I didn't see any new people out there I'd never seen before. So I don't think it caused any problem whatsoever. It made some camaraderie and some competition, but it wasn't any problem that I saw anywhere. I didn't see a single new person trying this stuff, and anybody who had would have really been stupid. Well, I like Pete. He was on the boat with me when he lost. He was sitting on my boat and watched Taylor get the wave, and he was stoked for Taylor. There might be camaraderie or competition somewhere that we don't see, but between the actual big wave surfers, these guys are all buddies. Almost every one of them are friends, and I think they're all stoked for Taylor. And if it happens again and Pete wins, Taylor would be thrilled for him. So I don't think it really matters. I don't think it's made any new competition. I thought it was fun because I like to go to Todos Santos. I think being too far away with your image, and that's a big problem. You know, if you're on the beach trying to take pictures of your friends, it's $10,000 just for the lens to get close anymore, to get a quality photograph. It's a $40,000 boat to get you out there, and then you have to know where to be. It's a tough deal to get a good surf photograph. You know, it's one of the most challenging things I've ever done. I shoot a lot of other stuff, and that one takes more elements than anything to make it come together. And that's what's, you know, when you get that great shot, it makes it that much more rewarding. It'll be exciting in the magazine to see Taylor get the credit he deserves. I don't think it's changed anything. I think it was a lot of fun. I think Bill did a great promotion. I think he nailed it with his timing. I think Reef Brazil did an incredible timing with the first ever Todos event. I hope they have a Mavericks event next year. I think that'd be wonderful. I'd love to go up there. I just expand like that. The Quicksilver, you know, needs to happen again, but it's so fickle, whereas these other places can handle, they don't close out, is the catch. So there's the difference. So I think if they expand it next year, it'd be fun to go somewhere else. And that's about it. This year was unbelievable. I think this year's done. We'll have to go ask Sean Collins right now, but I think the big waves are over for the winter, I hope, because I'm beat.